What's going on, everybody? DCas back with a new video, and before we get started, I want to give a shout out to a Twitch streamer by the name of ArianaKatana.
Oh, sick! Oh my god!
She is also on YouTube, and she is also the person who motivated me to go about making this video. So, yeah, if you are on Twitch or on YouTube, I will link her channels in the description. Please give her a follow or a subscription or whatever else you can. Just give her all the love and positivity that you have to offer. That would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so the subject of this video, I'm not going to go over and demonstrate the process of making, but I am going to talk about the processes of which you can go about making gloves. Now, I'm mostly going to be sticking to Spider-Man gloves, but you can use this for a variety of cosplays, ranging from the Fantastic Four to Joker to Batman, so on and so forth. So, yeah, before I start rambling too much, let's get into the video. Okay, so here I have three pairs of gloves, excuse me, that I'm using as an example. I have here a pair of gloves from my red and blue suit. I have the gloves from my advanced suit. And I have gloves from my red and black costume. Now, at a first glance, you may be thinking to yourself, DCas, these are all basically the same gloves. Aha! That's what you think. But each of these gloves was made a different way. And I think the best way to go about talking about this subject is I'm going to have to turn one of each pair inside out. So give me a second. Okay, so when I said give me a second, it actually took me a few minutes, but that doesn't matter. But anyway, I turned one glove from each pair inside out. So I'm going to start with my red and black costume gloves. Now, I basically made the whole thing out of two pieces. The palm half and the knuckle half. And when I say that, well, this side has the palm, so that's why I call it the palm half. This side has your knuckles, so that's why I call this part the knuckle half. There is a seam going all the way around, and there's nothing throughout here. And the same, nothing throughout here except the hole for if you want to have the web shooters or if you want to have the organic webbing. The webbing has to have some way of getting out, so that's why that hole's there. But other than that, it's just a seam all around the glove. Very simple, and I call this method the turkey hand method because, well, the pattern for this, you basically trace around your hand and then cut two parts, sew them together, and that's the basic idea. There have been several YouTubers who have gone through this method. The only two that I can think of off the top of my head are NX and John Hay. It's a simple, straightforward method, and it works perfectly fine. I mean, you can do it that way. And then here is a little more advanced situation where you have the seam going around the side, but the thumb is actually a separate piece. And as you can see, the seam doesn't actually go all the way around the thumb. It starts at the base of the thumb where it joins into the rest of the hand, but it actually stops at the edge of this curve here, and it's pretty much fluid the rest of the way. That's actually a step forward in advancement, and again, this works perfectly fine, but there are also a few things to take into consideration, and that is you also want to have a curve cut out on the palm half of the glove so that you know which side you want to sew the thumb onto first. Because if you try to sew it to the flat edge, there's a strong chance that you might screw it up. I was very fortunate to think ahead when I first tried sewing the thumb on as a separate piece. So, yeah. When it comes to mistakes on making gloves, I can't exactly speak from experience on that. And that's probably because I actually thought ahead. But, bragging aside, yeah. Word of advice, when you want to attach the thumb as a separate piece, make sure you have a thumb cutout on the palm section so you know to sew the thumb onto that side first, and then wait until you have the index finger side sewn down to where the palm cutout meets, and then you can sew the other side of the thumb piece onto that side. So there is that. Now, this side here, the one that's from one of my classic suits, this is probably the most advanced level that I have done so far. And the reason for that is, well, we do have the basic seams right there. The thumb is a separate piece, but there's also an additional piece that connects between the palm and knuckle halves of the fingers, and that's called the fourchette. There is a YouTuber who talked about this during one of his live streams. His name escapes me at the moment, but I'll have that stream of his linked in the description. He called it the Finger Separator, which is actually not correct. It's called a fourchette. And the reason it's called a fourchette is because, well, when you look at your hand, you have the thumb, and apart from the thumb, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 other fingers. Technically, the thumb isn't a finger, so, yeah. That's why I typically say 4 fingers and a thumb. But that aside, let's get back to the point. Yeah, there are 4 fingers, and the reason it's called a fourchette is because it goes between the halves of the 4 fingers. The index, middle, ring, and pinky finger. So, yeah. And when I attach the fourchette, I always sew it by hand because I don't really trust the sewing machine that I have to not get caught or jam up. So, yeah. I always hand sew that part of the glove. So, yeah. So, yeah. Fourchette, thumb's a separate piece, and then we have the palm half and the knuckle half. So, yeah, and I think in talking about this subject a bit further, why don't we take this a step forward and let me show you some pattern templates for further demonstration examples. Okay, so I brought out some templates for further examples. This right here is a simple, basic template example, and if you look real close, you can kind of see my pen outlines, and I extended the shape outward for seam allowance. And as you can see, it's basically tracing around your hand, basically, which was the basic grade school way where students would go about drawing turkeys. Hence why it's called the turkey hand method. Now, this pattern here, with the extended forearm bits and the thumb being a separate piece, I actually showed making this one in my How to Make a Spider-Man Costume Pattern tutorial. As you can see, the thumb is a separate piece, and basically to make the thumb pattern, you basically trace around your thumb and then flip that part over and trace it over, and then you cut it out as one piece, and that's basically the gist of making the pattern for the thumb. And do you see here what I was talking about with that curvy cutout for the palm half? The knuckle half does not have that cutout. So, yeah. That's why when you sew the thumb onto the glove, you want to attach it to the palm half first before you ever get to sewing it onto the knuckle half. And also, before I move on to the other pattern, you might notice that the fingers are pretty thick. Or a bit thicker than your actual hand, even though we work with spandex for Spider-Man gloves. Now, this pattern, it's very similar to the other one, and as you can see there, again, thumb cut out, and you may notice that the fingers appear a bit skinnier. Bring this one over, or actually, yeah, do you see the difference in the finger thickness? Well, I think I was a bit careless when I was making this pattern, but at the same time, it still ended up working out because it allowed me to put in the fourchette. And if you're curious on how wide to make the fourchette, not how long, but how wide to make the fourchette, I typically only go about 3/4 of an inch. And for those of you who have the metric system, an inch is about 2.54 centimeters. So, yeah, you can do the math there. But, yeah. Basically, with the thin fingers on this pattern, it's a reminder for me to cut a long strip to use as the fourchette. So, yeah, that's a little bit of advice there. So, I know I said I wasn't going to go over the process on making the gloves, but I thought maybe I could probably show you a few clips of other videos to demonstrate the idea behind making them. So, I'm afraid that's about it for this video. I'm sorry that it wasn't much. It was just a conversation about gloves and how you can go about making them. And basically a bunch of already seen footage. But hopefully I was able to give you some idea about how you can go about making gloves. If you were able to learn something from this, that's pretty much what I was going for. So if you were able to learn something from this, be sure to leave a like. Feel free to leave a comment about what you did learn from me from this video. And consider subscribing as well. I don't upload a whole lot, so you're not going to be spammed with notifications from me. And once again, please check out ArianaKatana both on YouTube and on Twitch. Again, I will have her linked down in the description.
Damn, I love that.
I've been your host, DCas, and I hope to catch all of you on the web. So until next time, take care.